told him to call the alternative number I had given him, and explain those things. Actually, I call them things. Those things he is telling me. So he assured me he will call. So meanwhile, my friends were asking me what is happening. I had 3 friends, 3 dear friends whom I can't forget. Sister Maggie, Msola's sister. Emily Acheng, a friend of mine, a lay person. And Timo, a very great friend of mine and a brother to me, though not by blood. I told them my life has to change. Imagine my life has to change, and to change for good. Remember those words vividly coming from my mouth. I thought, imagine I'm going to lose my breast. And they could not take in the news. However, now I can cry. By then I could not cry. I was shocked beyond tears. They tried to encourage me, but I think I wasn't listening. Within a short time, Sister Michael Marie called me from the house and asked me if they could pack some few things for my hospital time, and I allowed them. I allowed one of my friends to go into my room and pack things together with the nurse and Michael Marie, that is Sister Rosina. We waited for them, and within the shortest time possible, they were there. I remember Michael Marie asking me why I'm not crying, and I told her I couldn't cry. Then I had to say goodbye to my friends as I jumped into the car, and off we left for the hospital. Along Langata Road, I just could not understand. I could not imagine myself losing my breast. So I asked Sister, couldn't they do something to save me? And she said, oh, they could do an MRI. We see how far the spread has gone. None was calling it. It was not named cancer. So I asked her, how much would it cost us? And she told me the cost does not matter. So she called the doctor, and immediately the doctor booked us in. So we reached the hospital around 3:30, going to 4. We found Dr. Dungo there. He didn't know the other 2 sisters, that is Sister Michael Marie and our nurse. So he said, for sure you are Sister Mary Joseph, I know you, but I don't know the 2. So I introduced them to him. And then I told him, could you tell me on my face, Daktari, what you said? And he told me, definitely. And he told me, Sister Mary Joseph, the results are not good, and we are likely to pull out the whole of your breast. I asked him if I could. He allowed me, and I looked for a word to tell God, but my mind was blank. My heart was shattered. I was in deep shock. So the only words that could come from my heart to my God were, please, Jesus, no, no, no. And I stood up and we sat down. They tried to talk me out as we waited for the MRI machine to be free, but I don't think I listened to them. At some point, Michael Marie asked me if I could inform my parents, but I wasn't ready for that. My friends, I wasn't ready for that. I wished to be left at my own world. At around 10 is when I got a chance to get into the MRI machine. I remember the lady who was to do that, she talked to me, but I can't tell you anything except after she explained everything, she told me I'd be happy after the surgery, but I didn't understand how. So she asked me to change. She checked if I have metallic things. I removed my ring. I removed my veil. She checked my teeth if I had any golden fillings in my teeth. And when I was ready and I had changed to the gown, before she prepared me to get into the machine, I asked her again if I could pray. She said, yes, sister, you should. So I knelt before that machine. I still remember. For me, it looked like a coffin. For me, it was like I was dying. Anyway, she allowed me to pray. Again, I looked for some words to tell my God. It was again, please, Jesus, no, no, no. So I stood up again, and she asked me if I'm ready, and I said yes. So she blocked my ears. She prepared me. I was to lie on my belly. And into the machine I was pushed, and it was locked behind me. Inside the machine, I kept on telling Jesus, no, I don't need to lose my breast. I begged him to heal me. I begged him all the time I was there until I was pulled out, injected something through my vein on my arm, and I was returned back. When I was returned back, we had to agree with my God that if it doesn't heal me, to take me home. And for some reason, I was peaceful. Then the next thing was I had the door opened and I was out. I wasn't crying. I was at peace. I came out. Then I dressed up, and when I went out, I was curious to know the result. Believe me, it was a miracle when we looked at the results. The impact was so small around the lump, and Dr. Dungu assured me now I was not to lose my breast. I felt like a big load has been lifted from my head, from my heart. And he said, we will do a different surgery tomorrow. And he kept insisting to me to understand. So he told me we'll do something we call breast conservation. That is removing the lump and the periphery where the spread has reached. And then the nodes, the lymph nodes under my arm. I did not understand, but I know I was happy. It was a miracle, I believe. And he had to cancel in front of my eyes the term mastectomy, and he wrote with his hand breast conservation. And then my journey of struggling with cancer began. I was admitted in Aligam, Nairobi Women's Hospital that very night around 11, and I think the admission took around 12. I was still in the company of my Komari and our house nurse at Aligam. The preliminary tests were done, x-rays and so forth, and then I was admitted and allowed my sisters to go back home. They left me in that new place alone. I was in a room alone, but I prayed, and Psalm 23 meant a difference in my life. It was not easy for me to sleep, but I remember when I slept, I was peaceful. I didn't wake up at all until in the morning when a nurse called Virginia woke me up and said on my shoulder, Sister Mary Joseph, it's already 4:30. Wake up, we prepare for theater. And I woke up and I was peaceful. Then I changed. I remember it was a greenish kind of a gown. And I was whisked down to theater. I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. Dr. Dungu was there already. Dr. Waweru was there. my anesthetist. There was Dr. Odede. There were other nurses around me. It took a very short time. Then I was whisked to the bed, the place of my surgery. I remember being surrounded by so many people, doctors and nurses. And they introduced themselves again. And I remember Dr. Dungu reminding me, remember, it is not mastectomy, but breast conservation. I prayed and I said, Jesus, help me go through. And within a short time, Dr. Waweru spoke and told me, I'm the anesthetist and I am going to give you something small on your arm. Can you count for me from 50 to 1? I don't think I said 50 and I was gone. The surgery was successful. When I woke up, I found myself in the recovery bay. And I remember asking for oxygen. I could not breathe well. There was a nurse there calling herself Carol, and she told me, I told you I'll be with you during the surgery and after. And she put me on the oxygen surgery. Then after a while, I was whisked back to the room. I could see everything. I could understand everything. I can remember the people who whisked me back to the room. They were 4 men. I don't know whether they were nurses or they were not. Then I was changed back into my room. It was around 11. I asked for my phone and I called Sister Michael Marie. And I told her, I'm out of surgery and I am okay. I remember her asking me, you're from the surgery and you can communicate? I said yes. And I was awake until around 3 is when I slept. Then the surgery, the recovery of the surgery went very fast. I was in hospital only for 1 week. Then the other week I was at home. I went to Dr. Dungu from time to time for check. Within a short time, the stitches were removed. And I recovered very well within 2 weeks. I went back to school. And for some reason, many people could not know I am sick. Then from there, life went on as usual. And after 1 or 2 months, I was now admitted for radiation. That was in November. I was operated in September 8th, the birthday of the Virgin Mary. Radiation was another traumatic experience. I was doing it in Nairobi Hospital, and Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. It was a traumatic experience, but I went through it. I can only share with you my strengths and challenges in that place. One, the challenge I got was to settle on that machine under that cobalt kind of metal. It was scary. It reminded me MRI machine. But this time it was ultra-violent rays on my left hand breast. That was one challenge. The other challenge was I met so many patients with different cancers. Some the cancer of the eye, others cancer of breast, others cancer of the foot. Some were brought on wheelchairs, others from the wards on their beds. It was challenging. We were a mixture of black and white. And I realized that cancer does not choose color. race, age. We were children and grown-ups in that room for radiation. The other challenge was the time to queue there. It was so packed that I had to go for radiation at around 6 in the evening. Radiation was to take 30 days, that is 6 weeks. And I only used to be attended between 9 and 10 in the night. So you can imagine the fear of coming home from Nairobi Hospital to Karen every day from Monday to Friday for 6 weeks. On Saturdays and Sundays, I always rested. The strengths I got from radiation were enormous. One, we shared a lot with the patients I found there. We had one common denominator, cancer. I shared with many of them, and they kept seeing that I was lucky because I discovered my cancer early enough and I responded quite fast. Most of them were full of regrets and they knew they were on their way to the grave. Some could tell me openly, mine is at the 4th stage and I know I'm not going to last long. But sister, you are lucky. You will live long. And I saw that as a strength. The other strength was when I looked at the children, and for them, it was like any other treatment. I got a lot of encouragement from the radiation center. After that 1 month, I experienced a bit of pain around my breast. It peeled off, it was a wound, but Dr. Catherine kept the pain at the minimum, and I thank her for that. December came and passed, and I was well. I even went home to visit my parents and my sisters and brothers, and I was happy. Then when I came back, January passed, I didn't have much except to go for reviews. Then on February 12th, I began the next step of treatment, that is chemotherapy, a very traumatic kind of treatment. It was to take 6 cycles, so it ran from 12th of February until 28th of May 2010. It was traumatic. The medicine was put through my vein, my arm vein, that is intravenous, and it was a painful experience. The first experience I can share with you. When I was put on that drug, the first thing I felt like my face was bleeding. So I wiped my face with my hand and I checked, but I wasn't bleeding. Then I started getting nauseated and I asked for a basin to vomit, but I didn't vomit. And as the nurse was driving in the medicine, I was feeling my stomach getting upset. But I had to go through it. It was the way forward, and I had no choice but to bear. When it was over, an IV followed, and I was there for 1 to 2 hours every time I went for chemotherapy admission. The other thing I can share about chemotherapy admission is that after every 3 weeks,